Welcome to our channel, your gateway to unfiltered political speeches and interviews from across Ireland. No edits, no commentary, just real voices shaping the nation. Subscribe now and stay informed with us every day.
Children are starving, basic pain-killing medicine cannot be accessed, hospitals are being bombed, and the scale of death and destruction in Gaza is almost unimaginable, certainly unconscionable. Famine is a real risk for many Gazans. Children are even dying as we speak. We cannot and we will not stand idly by and let this happen. Your words, Taoiseach. But standing by is exactly what you are doing in relation to the thousands of tons of weaponry flown through Irish airspace, sovereign airspace, since October 2023 to the Israeli military. F-35 combat jet components, munitions from Lockheed Martin and IMI systems, missile launchers, Smith & Wesson handguns, ammunition primer, detonator, detonating fuses, tear gas, I could go on. Multiple airlines doing it repeatedly. Lufthansa, Delta Airlines, FedEx, Challenge, Silkway Airlines, El Al. They're flown without permission from the Irish state. It's a criminal offence which carries a 3-year prison sentence for the owner or hirer of the aircraft. But you're not just turning a blind eye to it, you're gaslighting us about it. You told the Dáil last June that no Irish sovereign airspace is being used to transport weapons to the conflict in the Middle East. Last Friday on the Late Late Show, you said you don't believe that Irish skies are being used to transport weapons to Israel. Now you tell the Dáil that it's hard to have the level of knowledge that we need to have about these. How can you say these things, Taoiseach? The Ditch have informed you. I'm very happy to pass over a folder of waybills from the airlines themselves. We don't need to investigate it. The airlines themselves are declaring they're carrying weapons. And these have been sent to you repeatedly, Taoiseach, not just after the fact, but in advance of the fact. One of the receipts here from FedEx clearly listing the tracking number and flagging it as ITAR goods, that is International Trade in Arms Regulations. On 23rd of October last year, the Ditch emailed this to you, and they told you, we wish to advise you that FedEx flight FDX4 from Memphis to Cologne is carrying at least 3 munitions of war packages for delivery to Nevatim IDF airbase in Israel. This aircraft departed Memphis just over an hour ago, and its flight plan indicates it will enter Irish sovereign airspace this afternoon. FedEx has designated the 3 packages, which we understand are Lockheed Martin F-35 combat jet components, as ITAR goods. The F-35 is a weapon of war used by the IDF to kill civilians, including journalists in Gaza. So you know about it. You know about it. Why do you say you don't believe it's happening? Are you claiming you haven't received this evidence? Or are you saying you've received this evidence, but you think the airlines are somehow, for some reason, lying about having weapons and munitions on their planes? Are you going to act?
Thank you, Deputy.
Or are you going to keep saying the world needs to act, we need to do more, we can't stand idly by, and then continue to precisely stand idly by while weapons go through Irish airspace to be used for a genocide?
I think, Les Concordia, this is probably the only parliament in the world, where members of the parliament stand up and suggest that the Irish government's position is anything other than supportive of the people of Palestine. I mean, it's usually quite the opposite, in fact. It's usually when, and any of us who attend international meetings and fora, it's usually that Ireland is seen as almost an outlier, worryingly perhaps, in terms of our level of support for international law, for human rights, for the people of Palestine, for a two-state solution, and in calling out, as our Taoiseach did, the war crimes being committed by Israel. So then you come in here and you just get a completely different representation. Ireland isn't standing idly by. And you quoted my words, I think, of this Tuesday. Ireland is not standing idly by. Ireland have already outlined even more steps that this country intends to take, both domestically and internationally, in relation to supporting the people of Palestine, but more profoundly in terms of supporting international law and human rights. And we continue to do that, and will continue to do that at every opportunity. You said I said something there as though I said it new. I also said it on Friday night in the interview that you referenced as well, that we do need to have a better understanding and better knowledge as to what happens above our skies and indeed below our seas. I find it somewhat ironic that the deputy who raises this issue is the same deputy who would oppose any increase in defence spending to increase the capabilities of Óglaigh na HÉireann in terms of monitoring what happens in our skies and below our seas, because that's exactly what we need to do. No, you can shake your head if you want. You are not, but I don't. But you know what?
We don't need aircraft to find out.
Continue, Tánaiste.
They are telling you they're carrying weapons.
Deputy Murphy.
Thanks for shouting me down again. I know you're having difficulty this week. You won't take questions from some journalists, and when you come in here if you don't like the questions, and then when you ask me a question you won't allow me to answer it. So you don't take questions from some and you don't accept answers from others. So don't shout me down, please, on an important issue. In relation to this situation, I've made it very clear what Irish law does state. And as a government minister, as a leader in government, we obviously rely on the laws of our land. And the laws are very clear in relation to the air navigation, carriage of munitions of war, weapons and dangerous goods orders of 1973 and 1989 that expressly prohibits for civil aircraft to carry munitions of war in Irish sovereign territory without being granted an exemption to do so by the Minister for Transport. I've also made the point, though, that it's one thing about what people wish to inspect when it's on the ground. When a plane is at 30,000, 35,000 feet in the air, I'd be very interested in hearing from you your practical and implementable solutions in terms of what more we can do. And I don't say that, by the way, in any flippant way, because let me be very clear. I do think we need to do more on this. I do think we need to see change internationally in relation to this. I do think this being dictated from international covenants and agreements of the 1940s doesn't reflect the reality today. I also think we need to have better clarity and understanding around munitions and parts, and absolute clarity as to what needs to be declared, because the law of this country is clear. The law of this country is robust in terms of Irish sovereign airspace. But then there's also the practicalities in terms of the implementation. So there is work going on in the Department of Transport. Minister Darragh O'Brien confirmed that to me again as recently as this morning, in terms of what more measures Ireland needs to take in relation to our own law, or indeed what more measures Ireland needs to seek to take internationally.
Deputy Murphy.
This studied, deliberate, false ignorance, pretending you don't know what's going on, suggesting we need to have aircraft to go and inspect commercial airlines in the plane, what in the sky over Ireland. What are you suggesting? Again, it's very, very simple. I'm really happy to give these to you, Tánaiste. Way bills from the aircraft repeatedly showing that thousands of tons of weaponry have gone through Irish airspace on the way to be used in a genocide in Gaza. This is not a mystery. The airlines admit it. A few months ago, the last government had some sort of examination in the Department of Transport. What happened to that examination? You want to know my practical solution? My practical solution is that the Minister for Transport should prosecute the companies. It's the law. They're currently breaking the law. Or I'll give you another suggestion, which actually came from now Taoiseach. Micheál Martin said last September that there had to be consequences for airlines to do this, that they shouldn't be allowed to fly through our airspace if they violate these basic laws. Do you agree with that? Are you going to act to stop Silkway, to stop Challenge, to stop Delta, to stop Lufthansa continuing to fly? And we actually need action. Would you like me to drop these over to you, the emails and stuff, so that you have them? Do you need them?
Thank you very much.
Do you need?
I'll wait till you finish. Thank you for. Oh, he's coming over to me now. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much for that. But obviously, the process to which government will go through, Deputy, is examining the allegations. The Department of Transport is examining them, and I do agree that any breaches of Irish law must, of course, have consequence. I mean, Irish law matters. I'm very clear in relation to that, as is the Taoiseach, as is the Minister for Transport. And if there have been breaches of Irish sovereign law, decisions will need to be taken on the next steps, based on evidence, based on clear and robust evidence. I think we also need to be clear here, and this is the point I was trying to make, that if existing legislation doesn't provide for the implementation of a system of routine and random inspections, and rather it requires that there first be an appearance of intention or likelihood for a civil aircraft to depart from a point in the state in a manner that would contravene the legislation, for example, carrying munitions. I think it is a legitimate question for government to now consider whether we need to amend our own domestic legislation and whether more needs to happen internationally. So I'm very clear, any breaches of Irish law, it cannot be consequence-free. I agree with you in relation to that. The Department of Transport will carry out and is carrying out a robust examination of all of these matters, and then will advise government on what next steps are required.
Liked what you saw?